Chapter 1: The Gathering. The sun was setting over the mountains as the first of the Misfit heroes arrived at the tavern. It was a rundown place, with peeling paint and a sagging roof, but it was the perfect spot for a secret meeting. The first to arrive was a tall, muscular man with a bushy beard and a thick accent. He introduced himself as Ragnar, a Viking warrior from a distant land. Next came a small, wiry man with a thick head of curly hair, who introduced himself as Kieran, a thief and rogue with a quick wit and a quicker hand. The last to arrive was a woman, tall and regal, with long silver hair and a sharp gaze. She introduced herself as Lyra, a powerful mage from a noble family. As they gathered around a table in the corner of the tavern, they exchanged cautious glances and introduced themselves. Each of them had been summoned by an anonymous letter, inviting them to join a quest to defeat a great evil that threatened the world. Each had their own unique skills and abilities, and each had their own reasons for joining the quest. Ragnar had been searching for a purpose since his homeland had been destroyed by a great dragon, and he had been the only survivor. Kieran had been on the run from the law for years, and was looking for a chance to prove himself and clear his name. Lyra had been studying magic since she was a child, but had always felt stifled by the expectations of her family, and was eager to use her powers for a greater good. As they waited for the final member of their party to arrive, they discussed their hopes and fears for the quest ahead. They knew it would be dangerous, and that they would be up against powerful foes, but they were determined to see it through. They talked late into the night, sharing stories and jokes, until the final member of their party arrived. She was a young woman, barely out of her teens, with wild red hair and a fierce look in her eye. She introduced herself as Aria, a ranger from the forests of the north. She had been raised by wolves, and had learned to move silently and strike quickly. She was the last member of the party, and they were ready to begin their quest. Chapter 2: The Quest Begins. The next morning, the party set out on their quest. They had been given a map by their mysterious benefactor, and it led them deep into the heart of a dark and forbidding forest. The forest was thick with twisted trees and tangled vines, and they had to use all of their skills to navigate its treacherous paths. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, they encountered strange creatures and twisted spirits. There were giant spiders with venomous fangs, and trolls with boulder-like fists. There were wispy ghosts that whispered secrets and tried to lead them astray, and twisted goblins that skittered through the shadows. But the party was strong and determined, and they fought their way through the dangers of the forest. Ragnar wielded his mighty axe, Kieran darted in and out of the shadows, Aria shot arrows with deadly accuracy, and Lyra called upon powerful spells to protect them. After many days of travel, they emerged from the forest and found themselves at the edge of a vast desert. The desert was hot and dry, with shifting sands that stretched as far as the eye could see. They consulted their map, and found that they needed to cross the desert to reach their next destination. They traveled through the desert for days, with only the blazing sun and the shifting sands for company. They ran low on water and food, and were attacked by vicious sandstorms and deadly scorpions. Just when they thought they couldn't go on any longer, they spotted an oasis in the distance. As they approached the oasis, they saw that it was already occupied by a group of bandits. The bandits were armed and dangerous, and they were clearly not happy to have visitors. The party knew they had to be careful, but they were also running low on supplies and couldn't afford to turn back. Aria suggested a plan. She would sneak into the bandit camp and create a distraction, while the rest of the party snuck in and stole the supplies they needed. They put the plan into action, and it worked like a charm. Aria caused a commotion in the bandit camp while the rest of the party snuck in and grabbed the supplies they needed. They made a quick getaway, leaving the bandits confused and angry behind them. Chapter 3: The Final Battle. After crossing the desert, the party finally arrived at the base of the mountain. They found a hidden entrance that led deep into the mountain, where they encountered the final challenge of their quest. As they journeyed deeper into the mountain, they encountered traps and obstacles at every turn. There were pits filled with deadly spikes, walls that closed in on them, and corridors that led nowhere. But they were determined to reach their goal, and they pressed on. Finally, they reached the heart of the mountain. There, they found the source of the great evil that threatened the world. It was a powerful sorcerer, who had been harnessing dark magic to gain power and control. He had an army of dark creatures at his command, and he was determined to destroy anyone who stood in his way. The party fought bravely, using all of their skills and powers to defeat the sorcerer and his minions. Ragnar swung his mighty axe, Kieran darted in and out of the shadows, Aria shot arrows with deadly accuracy, and Lyra called upon powerful spells to protect them. In the end, they emerged victorious, and the great evil was vanquished. As they emerged from the mountain, the party looked at each other, weary but triumphant. They had faced great dangers and overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and they had done it together. They knew that their lives would never be the same, and that they had formed a bond that could never be broken. As they parted ways, they made a promise to each other. They would always be there for each other, no matter what. They were the misfits who had come together to save the world, and they had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams.